So today we are learning Clojure syntax and Clojure expressions. So let's understand how we can write Clojure functions and Clojure expressions, and then we will try the same in our terminal. So let's first see. So this is a println statement function, like how we will print line our function. So println is a function, and the double quotes we need to pass the message which we want to print on our console. So that is a print line function. So as you can see, this is a print function, and this is the first argument, which is a string which we want to print, and there is a parenthesis. So prefix notation. So in a mathematical term, if we want the sum of two numbers, so how we will pass, like 1 plus 2, right? But the same number can be but the same expression can be represented closer like this, where first we need to give the operator, and then we need to give the operands, right? So like this we will write our expression in Clojure. So here we need to do the multiplication of all the five numbers. So this can be done in Clojure like this. And yeah, this is a complex expression, like 4 plus 2 plus 4 plus 2 2 into 3 divided by 5. So this can be done like this in Clojure, where first we need to do the multiplication of two number, 2 into 3 6, and then we need to do sum with 4, so 6 plus 4 10, and then 10 divided by 5, then 10 divided by 5, so the answer will be 2. So like this we can perform. Let's try solving it. So let's start our Clojure window. So as you can see, if we do plus 1 comma 2, so it is giving 3, and then we will do the multiplication of all first 5 numbers, then it will say 5, then we will do this complex expression. First we need to divide, then we need to do the plus with 4, then we need to do multiplication of 2 and 3, and then we need to close this 2 and then 5, and then divide by 5. So as you see, answer is 2, right? So like this we will write our arithmetic expressions in Clojure. Now let's start. So we have already tried this here. So yeah, that's all for the arithmetic exception and a println function. And let's try for some functions. So let's try for some variables and functions. How we will define the variable and functions. So to define a custom variable, we will use a diff. So diff is basically signifies for defining, and x is variable name and value is 42. So if we want to initialize a variable x with value 42, so this we can do with this syntax in Clojure. So this is the syntax of defining a variable in Clojure. Second is a function, like how we will define a function in Clojure. So this is the syntax for defining a function in Clojure. So every function, if we are defining a function, where it should start with defn, which is meaning of defined function. So defn is signifies for defined function, and then we need to give the function name, which is foo is for function name, and here in the square bracket we need to give the argument list, all the arguments which our function take, we need to define in this list. And if our function is accepting more than one argument, so we can pass that by separating with commas, and then we need to start one more round bracket, where we will specify the body of our function. So body of our function, and then we close the body of our function, and then we close the definition of our function. So in this way we will define a function in Clojure. So what this function is doing, so suppose here we are defining a function for which is taking one argument x, and we are multiplying the x with 2 and returning the value and return the updated value. So this function is doing multiplying every number which we pass to the function foo. It is multiplying the value with 2. So that signifies what this function is doing. So let's try how this is working. So first of all we will define some variable. Let's define a variable. So as I say how I define, we need to use diff x is equal to 42, whatever value we need to assign to this variable. And now we have defined a variable x, and if we want to see the value of x, like really 42 is set in the variable x or not, we can simply try to print the value of x. So as you can see, it is printing the value 42 since the value of x is 42. Now let's define a function. So defn, suppose we will define a function foo, which is taking one argument x, and we need to give the implementation body for the same function. So as we can see, we will multiply every x into by 2 and will return the value. So we have defined the function now foo, and now let's call the function foo for 2. Sorry, I am only calling. So to call the function also we need to give them in a round bracket. So everything which we are providing uh, in the Clojure, uh, that should be in the round bracket. So in the foo we need to give 5. So as you can see, now we are calling the function foo and passing the argument 5. So it will multiply 5 by 2 and it will return the output 10. So like this you can pass x also. So the so we have defined the variable x whose value is 42 and it is multiplied by 2 and give us the output is 84. Okay, so like this we can define the function. Let's define some complex function, which is suppose we are taking the factorial function. We will define one function which is doing the factorial. It will take one argument n, and let's define the implementation for the same. So we will take the condition if n is equal to 0. If n is equal to 0, then we need to return 1, else we need to return factorial of n into n minus 1, right? N into, again we need to do factorial of, there is one more function dec which will decrease the value of n, so whatever value we have passed. So let's close the factorial function and then close this and then close if and then close the function. Yeah, so we have defined the function factorial for us. Now let's call the factorial of 5. It will give 120. Now call the factorial of 10. So yeah, so in this way we have defined the factorial of factorial function, and we have one doc also, which will give the information regarding our function. So as you can see, uh, factor doc foo. So it is just saying it. So user is a function, x is the function, and it is giving the uh, uh, values. Means it is giving this thing, but here we have not defined any functional de definition for it. So let's define functional definition so that it will come to us. So let's define one more function, which is suppose foo, foo only, but here we will use unlike foo. We will define some functional definition so that whenever we will call a doc function on our custom function, it will give us the functional definition of our custom function, like what our custom function is doing. So foo is the demo closure function. Okay, and it is taking one argument, and it will simply increasing the value by 5. So we take an n, we to do n, yeah. So we have defined one function, and now if we call foo on 5, it is add 5 and give it to 10. Now we will call doc on our foo function. So as you can see, it is giving us the functional definition which we have defined while defining our function. So foo is the demo closure function. It is taking one argument or n, and it is doing these things, and it will give all the information regarding the function. So in this way we will get so doc is a very powerful function. With the help of this doc function, we can get the functional definition and the of any custom function which are defined in Clojure. So that is a benefit of doc function. Let's see doc of def. So def, and as you said, def is used to define a variable in Clojure. So what is def? Def is a symbol and then doc string or initialize any value, a special form. So what it do, it creates and entering a global variable with the name of symbol in the current namespace. So in the current namespace, whatever variable name we will give, it will create the global variable with a given variable name and look at such variable if it is already exists, and it will initialize the value which is supplied to it, evaluate and root bring of variable, it's set to the resulting value. If int is not supplied, the root value of the variable is unaffected. Okay, so with this doc function you can uh, find a user doc manual for any predefined functions. So def is a function which is used to declare define the custom functions. So in the Clojure works in the Clojure world, uh, all such predefined functions are called as macros, same as define function, function name, parameter, or define function, function parameter, doc string, and attach the variable method name. So it is just giving the example also, but yeah, def is basically used to define a custom functions in Clojure, and def is used to declare a variable in Clojure. So yeah, that's all for this video. Please like the video, share with your friends if you like the video, and do comment down below if you have any doubts, any questions regarding this Clojure functions. Please comment. I will check and reply on the same. Please subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for next video. Thank you.